Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Brownie and I'm one half of the Indecisive Readers. Today I am here to do my July wrap up. In July I didn't do any readathons. I did a week-long readathon at the end of July that kind of merged into August, and that was about it. I didn't read as much as I did last month because in June I just went like mad with reading, and so in July I was just a bit more chill with what I was reading. I only finished 6 books. I did read a chunk of another book which I will come to later. I was a bit worried about filming this video because I'm not at home for it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to bring all the books, but then I realised I didn't read any of them physically. I read 5 ebooks and listened to 1 audiobook, but yeah, I'm just going to get in and talk about them. So the first book I finished in July was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This is a YA contemporary about a girl called Liz who is relying on her music scholarship to be able to go to university or college to study medicine, but when that falls through she remembers that her school offers a scholarship for the prom king and queen, so she decides to run for it. While she's running for it, she also maybe falls for one of the other candidates. This was a really fun book. I saw it spoken about a lot in June because I think it got released then, and it was just like a proper fluffy YA like romance, and I really enjoyed it. The romance itself was really cute because it was kind of based on a friendship, and when it inevitably fell apart, it resolved itself in a nice way, and how it fell apart wasn't necessarily great, but how it then developed and resolved. And the first kiss was just so cute. I texted my friend afterwards being like, I love it. It was proper realistic, I think is the right word. Like, it wasn't just all sparks flying, it was like teeth clashing, hugging, and I loved it. I also really liked the friendship in it. Even though the romance was a big thing, the friendships were also quite vital. Liz had like a whole established friend group, and each friend had like their purpose. That feels the wrong word, but purpose to Liz's prom campaign, and they were all very nice, mostly. And then there was another guy, well, there was another friend who was a guy, and I really appreciated his friendship with Liz because it was a queer book. It was nice to see that girls can be friends with guys and not want to sleep with them. I mean, Liz is bisexual and has had feelings for this guy in the past, but I like the fact that they just weren't there now. I really appreciated that, and I thought he was an interesting character, and I thought how they interacted with each other was very well done. I also really enjoyed the discussions about race and the LGBT plus community and being black and also being poor and being a woman. It was, the word I'm looking for is intersectionality, and it's basically how like something like feminism isn't just being a woman. There are lots of levels to it, and I thought that was really well discussed, and I thought it was really well done for a young adult book, and I thought it was really important for it to exist in a young adult book because obviously young adults and kids deserve to see themselves in books, and I just thought it was really well done. And I love the fact that at the end there was no like massive makeover scene, you know, like the classic Princess Diaries one where she like goes from curly with glasses and then straight hair. I think it actually may have even done the reverse, and it was great. I really enjoyed it, rated it 4 stars, and would definitely recommend it. The next book I finished in July was This Book is Antiracist by Tiffany Jewell. I rated this one 5 stars, which is unusual for me. I very rarely rate non-fiction books, especially educational non-fiction books, but I just thought this one was amazing. I read it through NetGalley, but I think at the time of me reading it, it was about $1.99 on the Kindle, so I would definitely recommend picking it up. And it was just so good. It was 20 lessons about how to be anti-racist, and at the end of each lesson there was like a place to reflect on what was done, what was said, like how each individual has a privilege or something. So as a white woman, I have to recognise that my privilege is being white and is being straight or in a straight relationship. But also I'm a woman, so I lose out on some things there, and so it gave you a space to actually reflect on it. And I thought that was a really clever way of it, like, of the act of reading it not just being performative, because I feel like so many people just brought like, oh, I'm no longer talking to white people about race to have on their shelf. But I feel like having this book where there's almost like workspace to reflect on it just meant that you had to actively read it, and I thought that was really, really good. And also it was so colourful and immersive and had loads of quotes, and it was really bold, and it was just a really, really good book. I think I'd like to buy myself a physical copy of it, because I obviously didn't write in it because it was on my Kindle, it was through NetGalley, but I would definitely like to, and I feel like it's the kind of book that everyone should read. And it was so easy to read because it was just 20 lessons. You could read like a lesson a night or even 5 lessons a night. It really wasn't very long. The next book I finished in July was Aurora Burning by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is the sequel to Aurora Rising, which is a sci-fi book about a team of ragtag heroes where they weren't meant to save the galaxy, but they end up doing so. The leader could have had the pick of the whole bunch of the whole academy, but ended up late to his exam because he was saving the world, and so now he's got left over with the ones that he doesn't want, and then it turns out they're quite good, just not people, aliens. And yeah, this is the sequel to it. I read the first one last year, kind of felt nothing towards it, didn't really like it either way, just kind of rated it about 3 stars. And I brought the sequel for Sam because he really enjoyed it and he absolutely hated it. I will leave his review down below because I can't effectively communicate what he wants to say, but Sam's coming down and we're going to do a rant review together, I think, about it. I'm hesitant to rate it at all because I didn't want to read it, and so I don't know like how correct my rating would be, but currently on Goodreads it's at 1 star. I'm like, does it deserve that? But also I'm like, it was quite readable, but I was mostly reading it out of spite. I didn't want to read it, it was just easy to read. It took about 20% of the way through before I got like interested in the story. Up until that point I was just like rolling my eyes at everything. I hated the characters. They're all really sarcastic, they're all really pretty, they're all really horny for each other, and they're all mostly really straight. There's one token gay and there's one guy who lusts after everyone, so it's probably pansexual if there was like a label for it, but he is still in a straight relationship, or is like mostly lusting after the straight person. And I'm like, you had the option to have like the whole galaxy, and 1, they look human, and 2, it is like dealt with the looking human bit, but 1, you look human, and 2, you're all straight. It was frustrating, and they're not even my main quibbles with it. I just wanted more time spent with Zyla. I've only ever written it down, but I think she was a really interesting character, and she got 5 chapters through the whole book and a total of about 40 pages, and I thought she was the most interesting character. Her character arc by the end just got completely wiped out. The ending just generally was terrible, like it ends in the middle of a battle, and that's not an effective way to finish a book. If you want someone to read the next book, you make them want to read it, you don't leave it in the middle of the battle so that they have to read it. That's cheating. And also then it felt like they didn't leave it with enough to carry on, and you know they're not going to die because there's a 3rd book. I just hated it. And also because they're so attractive, they spend the whole time noticing how attractive they are. Like there's this one race called the Sildrathi, and they're meant to be like the most beautiful beings in the whole universe, and this one Sildrathi guy turns up 3 times, but for the first time to like different people. So yeah, so one character will see him and then another character will see him. Every time he turned up for the first time, they had to explain how beautiful he was and how pretty and amazing. And then in the middle of the battle, all they could think about was how pretty he was, and I'm just not interested. And then the description of the boobs, I'm not on board with. I hated it. And it was chapter 3. And if I wasn't reading this because I love Sam, I would have thrown it in the bin. And also I got it from the library, so I didn't have to pay anything. But I did pay for Sam to have it. I just hated it. The next book I read, I enjoyed a bit more, and that, well, I did enjoy a bit more. I still didn't love it. But that was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This book is about a girl called Blue who has always been told that she will kiss her true love and he will die. And then at the beginning of the book, she meets a boy's ghost, I think, but future ghost, I don't quite know how it works, who is either the true love or someone she's been involved in the death of. And then she actually becomes friends with the boys. I don't quite know what the like summary is, because then the boys want to find like some old Welsh king, I think, and magic and ley lines and tarot cards and witchcraft. I don't really know what it's about, but it's a book. I rated that one 3 stars. I feel like I liked it, but this is the one I listened to as an audiobook, and I feel like I just didn't click with it, and that's because I didn't like the narrator. Now, I know that there are 5 boys in it, 5 guys in it, and 1 girl, but it begins with a female character, and it was like a middle-aged American man narrating it, and I just didn't like it. It's weird. I don't mind female narrators narrating men, but male narrators narrating women just feels weird for some reason, and I just never clicked with the audiobook narrator. So a lot of the time I was just kind of listening but not really listening, and so I just didn't pay attention. So I feel like I didn't immerse myself in the story, which is a shame because I feel like I could have liked it. But I rated it 3 stars because once I did get into the story, I did enjoy it. But I don't think I've got anything to say about it because I just didn't like listen to it enough. I don't know. I really wanted to, and there are lots of things about it that I should have liked, but I just, yeah, couldn't get on board with it, which is fine. Like, you don't always get on board with things. The next book I read in July was House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This was the June and July pick for Myth Take Reads, which is a bi-monthly book club where we read retellings of fairy tales and mythology and folklore. It's hosted by Charlotte and Ashley, and I will link all the information down below. This particular book is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, which I think was originally a Grimm's Brothers story, and it focuses around a girl called Annalie, who is the like 6th daughter in the family, but all these sisters are surprisingly quickly dying off. They're all dying mostly under normal circumstances, but the most recent one was under not usual circumstances, and so Annalie I think it's Annalie is the main one, but decides that she wants to find out what actually was behind it, and then other stuff happens. I rated this one 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed the start. I thought it was almost like a classic fairy tale. It was really dark. It was quite gruesome. Like the way that people died, the way that people were treated was very Brothers Grimm, and it was very like horror. I knew people were saying it was horror before, but then I was reading it, and I was reading it late at night, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to put this down. I do not do well with horror, but it was suitably creepy. It was really atmospheric, almost a bit gothic. It was a very weird genre mismatch. It's fantasy and gothic and mystery and horror. Just very strange. It kind of covers a lot of ground, but yeah, I thought the atmosphere was really well built. It felt kind of stormy, which makes sense because it's set in a watery coastal town, which then related to the gods, which I thought were really well developed. Well, one was really well developed. There was one main god called Pontus, who is like Poseidon, and then there were lots of other gods, but I never quite got on board with them. They didn't quite feel as developed as everyone else, and so I really liked Pontus, and I liked all the ceremonies and stuff they came up with around him, but I just feel like I didn't understand the rest as much, which was a shame. But then the ending was so melodramatic, like so many things happened, and then you finally found out who like the murderer was, if there was a murderer, but you found out who was behind everything, and I don't know. I didn't come up with who I thought it was because I'm really bad at guessing. So I don't know if I just didn't guess or I didn't try to guess, but when they revealed who it was, I was just like, I don't like that. It just felt weird, and then got all a bit dramatic, and then they brought in loads of elements that just kind of messed it up. And then the end there was an epilogue, and that just like ruined it, because the most of the book had been so dark, and like I said, really old school fairy tale, but then also old school fairy tale, there had to be a happy ending, and you're like, and just didn't quite suit the rest of the book. I mean, it was fine, but yeah, I didn't love it, but what can you do? I did actually talk about this book with Charlotte for the live show for this, so if you want to know my thoughts in a discussion, you will be able to find it on the Instagram page. I don't know how coherent I was, and we were doing it in the middle of a thunderstorm, so it wasn't always working. I did enjoy it, and I think there were a lot of things that were revealed in it that I thought about more in the live show, actually, that could almost do with having a reread, because I feel like it's the kind of book that would really develop upon a reread. So the final book I finished in July was Seven Devils by Elizabeth May and Laura Lamb. I read this as a NetGalley e-arc, but I liked it so much, I now have a physical copy of it. I have this with me because I'm lending it to Sam, because like the whole way through I was like, you'll like this, you'll like this, you'll like this. I kept sending him screenshots of like particular lines, and he'd be like, yeah, I do like that. So I have it, I'm gonna lend it to him, and I really, really enjoyed it. This book is kind of like a feminist Guardians of the Galaxy, that's what the authors are saying. I actually think it's a feminist Firefly, not to say that Firefly wasn't feminist, I think it's very feminist, but the crew of this is more like the crew in Firefly, I think, and the bad guys are like the bad guys in Aurora Rising, we don't talk about that anymore, and the AI is a bit like Aiden in Illuminae, and there was another one that I can't think of, but it was very good. Basically, it's about 5 female rebels who have decided they want to infiltrate the crown. When they infiltrate a ship that has something that doesn't look good, doesn't make it look like the crown's gonna do anything good, and there's more to it. I just can't think of a proper summary. It took me a while to fully kind of be invested in it. It had a lot of world building at the start and a lot of character introductions. There are 5 narrators, and you get introduced to 2 of them early on, and then there are another 3 that come along later on. And so you had to get introduced to them a lot, and you had to have a lot of flashbacks, and also because it's sci-fi, there was some technology that had to be introduced. But once I was in it and once the action started, I was really, really invested in it. I flew through it quickly. The characters, I loved all of them. They were great. They were all really feminist. It was very kick baddies. I think the first line of the book, a woman kills a man, which is great. Let's see what the first line is, actually. Eris got the call from her commander while she was killing a man. That's a good first line. That's going to turn away a lot of men, I feel. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved all the characters. There are a couple I loved most of all, and a couple of stories I'm like, not stories because they're all like in one story, but a couple of characters I'm more interested to follow in the sequels. But I really enjoyed them all. I was like, these two are my favourite, and I'm like, oh, but I like those two, and I like them. But I really enjoyed it. There was also a female romance in it, and not like a proper, not intimate in the kind of sex way, but intimate in the talking way, and like just bearing yourself to the other person. And I just thought that was really effectively done, and it was really soft, and I love them both. The final book I read a lot of in July, I read about 370 pages of but didn't quite finish, was The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I am only reading this slowly because I'm doing it for a read-along, which I was meant to be hosting, which is meant to finish in like a week, possibly even this week. But I fell behind after a week, so I have to catch up. So I read a lot of it last week. I read about 150 pages, which still wasn't loads, but I'm just slowly catching up, and I'm taking a while to read it because it's just, I love it so much. So up here you can see I've tabbed it 50 pages at a time. Along here you can sort of see that I have, let's do that. You can see that I've tabbed it as I've gone along. I've done drawings in it. I've highlighted bits. You can't see that. I chose yellow. Why would I choose yellow? To show you that I've highlighted something. There's lots of highlights. That's got some more highlights. The book is proper bent spine. I'm really enjoying it. Oh, and my map as well. You can see my map. It's a book I have read twice before. I read it for the first time back in June. I read it as well in January/February. I listened to the audiobook, and I'm just really enjoying taking it slowly now. Just reading it a chapter at a time, just taking the time to like see all the foreshadowing, see all the world building that I missed out on last time, and I really, really enjoy this world, and I get happy every time someone else reads it, and I hope that they love it as much as I do, because it holds a special place in my heart. It has all the things I want in a book. Like, it has fierce women, and it has a nice relationship, and it has a relationship that doesn't take over the plot but adds to it. And Sabran, didn't love her as much. I didn't love her the first time, and then the second time I'm like, oh, Sabran. But now I'm like, I love her so much. I love this book. Thank you for watching this video. If you have read or want to read any of these books, let me know. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!